All right, guys, so it's been a while. I haven't been as active on YouTube or Twitter, but that's for good reason. Back in April, I finally did something that I've been meaning to do for a long time, and that was create the stable. If you're following on YouTube, you'll see that almost every day there are shorts put out, and that is cut up from content that is produced in the stable. When I started this, the idea was simple. It was to take a group of traders through a focused 8-week educational phase, like I said, workshop, and try to get everyone on the same page or more or less speaking the same language, and then ultimately shift into a tighter, more execution-driven pod/community. So the idea is no fluff, none of the immature bullshit that you see in other trading communities. Trading communities are rife with nonsense, and no generic trading education, just real-time market work. So in the stable, we do focus mostly on crypto, but we also have a focus on equity index futures and commodity futures, as well as a handful of altcoins when they aren't trading like absolute shit. But the core of what we do is trading around market flows, understanding the patterns that are repeating in the market, and trying to understand better how the market is moving from day to day, minute to minute. So here's how it works. Every single day starts with the same agenda. We start with a pregame and preview. So this is published every morning before the New York Open, covers everything that's relevant from the prior session, from the overnight, and into ultimately the following session. So anything that's newsworthy, any economic prints, any developments overnight. Obviously, we've been a very headline-driven market, so there are plenty of these. That is followed up with a pre-NYSE Open morning call every morning. So Monday through Friday, we hop on, we walk through the plan, what's in play, what levels matter, what kind of day we might be dealing with, and then multiple times a week. On top of that, I'm live during market hours. So this could be in the form of streams, multiple streams a week, Q&As. We'll be breaking down any of the trades taken, things in real time or things that were taken earlier in the week or earlier in the session if these Q&As are later in the session, ideas going into the next session. So there's a lot of access in this, and there's a lot of emphasis on making this the most actionable community that you could possibly be part of. A lot of questions every single day are routed either through the morning calls, the streams, and in the channel, there's a questions for horse channel that is quite active, and I'm sure on its own, that channel could be used for a plethora of trading knowledge. Right? There's thousands of questions in there at this point that have accumulated since the beginning of April. So the cool part is actually all these streams and all of the content that I'm talking about, these are actually summarized almost immediately and published in a very attractive manner so that you could digest them as quickly as possible and as succinctly as possible, or they're kept as succinct as possible. And this is done by LLM tools. So if you can't make it live, you could skim the recap, you could know exactly what happened and why in minutes. And then inside the community, we also have a bunch of other channels that are set up for trades, set up for on-chain trading, educational breakdowns, more follow-on content. The idea is that this is not just a community that is sharing trading view charts with ridiculous risk reward profiles put on them, you know, kind of shooting for the moon. This is a true trading pod that is focused on operating as a community, executing in real time, and making sure that not only traders are more developed, but are ultimately making more money and keeping more money. On top of what I've just mentioned, every single week we have deep dive PDFs that are dropped. So I'll drop a PDF on a very specific subject in markets or some of the more important nuances that I think are valuable for traders to understand. You won't find any of this on social media. Plus, we also take weekly member feedback. So every single week I will throw out a Google form, take feedback, and the idea is I want to constantly evolve and update on the spot to make sure that this pod is the best possible experience for members. So the first weeks, like I said, were an 8-week workshop. So whenever you join on now, all of that is accessible. It's recorded along with the original market profile and flow course. And this is probably the best area to start when someone logs on. And that point is to ultimately, like I said, to be able to speak the same language. Flow is very nuanced. A lot of the things we talk about seem probably a little bit more complicated than your average sort of price action trading, but it's actually not that difficult. But again, it's important that people are brought up to speed. So the course and the workshop are all organized, summarized, and it's relatively easy to digest. Obviously, it'll take a certain amount of time to go through. Some people go through it faster than others. Some people retain more than others. But the idea is to first use that and then to integrate with the pod and community to begin to execute live. So that combination of resources, daily calls, and again, updating based on constant feedback, I think is what keeps everyone plugged in, sharp, and ultimately improving. And we understand what improving means in trading. It's either keeping more of your bottom line line or adding more to it. So if you want to check out what people are talking about right now, this is right now being talked about as one of the best communities. And I'm not just saying that to pat myself on the back. I did the work in the beginning. I dropped into everyone else's community. I wanted to see what people were doing, what things worked, what things didn't work. And I wanted to make the ultimate hybrid community based on all of the strengths and weaknesses. And I knew that I'd be able to deliver on it. So check out the link below. It's a phenomenal community. It's only going to get better after Labor Day. We're going to run a Labor Day sale, by the way. But as we move into Q4, we're looking to absolutely clean up.